Join us in this episode as we head to Öckerö harbour in the Gothenburg Archipelago for the winter, completing lots of boat jobs, discovering an alarming hole in our hull, and exploring the local area. I'm Jasmine, and these are my parents, Guy and Joe. And this is our home, Free Spirit. Come join us on our adventures. It was mid-September and we set off, heading for what would be our last anchorage of the year. We kayaked off to explore the island of Öckerö in the Gothenburg Archipelago. We gazed across at the neighbouring island of Öckerö, which would be our new home for the next few months. On our last evening at anchor, we were gifted with a beautiful sunset. The next morning we set off, making the short hop to Öckerö harbour. We tied up on a pontoon temporarily as we waited to be lifted out of the water. After a few days' wait, it was time for Free Spirit to be hauled out. We manoeuvred into the lift and were driven up and out. They pressure washed the hull, taking off most of the growth that had built up over the last 2 years, though she was surprisingly clean considering. The runoff water ran down a drain and into special tanks that filtered out the toxins and pollutants, preventing them from reaching the sea. Free Spirit was then manoeuvred into position, high and dry and ready to be worked on. We removed the old anodes that had corroded quite a lot over the years. With the boat safely in position and time on our hands, we headed off to explore some of the local area before the cold of winter set in. Free Spirit is a cutter-rigged steel Koopmans 39, and over the past few years we had sailed her from Scotland to the Faroes and then to Arctic Norway, before sailing down the Norwegian coast to Sweden. And now she was in need of some TLC. First we dealt with a few rust spots, chipping away at them and adding several coats of epoxy and primer. And then covering them up with paint. The same process was repeated above the waterline. We scoured the smooth surface and washed it, ready for new layers of paint. We taped over the white line and the ravens to protect them. And then it was time to get painting. After several coats of paint, we could remove some of the tape. Next, it was time to cover the hull with several layers of anti-foul, so hopefully she could sail for another year or two without being taken out of the water. Unfortunately, anti-foul paints are toxic and bad for the environment, so we always have mixed feelings about putting it on. But it reduces growth on the hull, smoothing our passage and reducing fuel consumption. There are strict laws regarding the products that can be used in Sweden. Finally, it was time to remove the rest of the tape. Free Spirit was freshly painted and looked as good as new. Some fun new friends of ours took us out to a classic boat festival on the neighbouring island. They also showed us their recent catch of lobsters. It was lovely to see these gorgeous wooden boats all together. Many of them are used as training vessels and often take kids and young people out to learn the art of sailing and working as a team. It would soon be time to put Free Spirit back in the water again. We replaced our anodes with fresh new ones, a job that had not been done for over 5 years and was now way overdue. We did some work on the inside of the boat. When hammering some rust spots in the bilge underneath the exhaust lock, Dad suddenly saw light coming through the hull below the waterline. The metal had become so thin he'd broken through the boat, and there was now a hole at the bottom. We were very lucky this hadn't happened whilst we were still in the water. On closer inspection, we found there were 2 places where the metal had thinned on either side of the keel, probably due to a minor leak from the exhaust lock fittings in this location. We had to postpone going back in the water, and it was back to work. We hired a local welder who cut out rectangles around the 2 rusted areas. He then welded new pieces of metal into place from both the inside and out. We scoured and then treated the patches. When they were painted over, you wouldn't even be able to tell they were ever there. Free Spirit was finally finished and ready to head back to the sea. The next day, the lift came. Free Spirit was lowered into the water once more. Without a bow thruster and in strong winds, it was very difficult to manoeuvre the boat out of the dock. But with a little help, we were able to get out and headed to tie up somewhere. Our designated winter spot was taken up at that time, so we had to wait until it became free. With our new electric scooters and a bike we were kindly given by the local mechanic, we were able to explore further across the island. There were loads of paths and walkways. At this time of year, the magical woodlands were alive with the colours of autumn, and we watched the seasons slowly changing. From the woods and marshes to the smooth, glacier-worn rocks along the rugged coast, there was beauty around every corner. We occasionally treated ourselves to some delicious traditional food at the well-priced local community restaurant. The boat behind us moved, and we could finally manoeuvre Free Spirit into her berth for the winter. We got to work setting up a spiderweb of ropes to keep her safe and steady in the strong winter storms. A complicated task in this area with fixed docks and wind-induced tidal variation of up to 1.5 meters. Mum stitched up the mainsail and we fitted it back on, ready for more sailing adventures next year. In our free time, we sometimes took a bus and ferry ride across to the city of Gothenburg. It was a lovely place to explore. With lots of shops and interesting architecture. As well as some fascinating museums. One of our favourite bands, Calandra, were playing, and we went with some of our Swedish friends to go see them perform. Calandra are a Norwegian band whose music has accompanied us on our voyages. It was special to finally see them live. The strong winds of winter blew in. Fortunately, Free Spirit was well tied up and weathered the storms well. The frequent strong winds made the moments of calm all the more beautiful. As the cold crept in, we were thankful to have our cosy boat to live in. With Christmas on its way, it was time to say goodbye to Free Spirit for a while and return to Cornwall to spend some time with friends and family. Mum and Dad returned to the boat in April the next year, whilst I was off on a conservation project in Bali. Whilst I was away, they had the tatty canvas spray hood replaced in a funky new colour. They painted the deck with non-slip paint and made sure Free Spirit was ready for another year of exciting adventures. Please like and subscribe. A huge thank you to my wonderful patrons for helping to support the production of these videos. If you'd like to help, as well as getting early ad-free videos, then click the link in the description and join my Patreon account. Join me next time for a change of scenery as I head to Bali for 2 months to join a conservation diving project helping to restore the coral reefs. And experiencing the wonders of this incredible place.